We went from making $40,000 or $50,000 to over $150,000. I've sprinkled my own entrepreneurial journey through bits and pieces of the episode, so you may have picked that up as you've listened to our show. I haven't really spent a lot of time unpacking my own entrepreneurial journey and how I got to be the host of the show, and what Common Sense Events is, what do we do for venue owners, what our part of the industry is. And so I wanted to take a couple minutes today and just share that with you and give you a little bit of background on myself, the team here, and I'm really excited to dive into that today. So let's get started. I want to start this journey by going all the way back actually to how I got started in hospitality in general. My first job was at Trader Joe's, and those core values at that first job really shaped how I thought about business, how I thought about careers and working and things like that. And ironically enough, growing up, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I actually clearly remember telling my parents, oh, being an entrepreneur is way too risky. I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna get a great job. I wanted to be an engineer like my dad. Did a bunch of different jobs, was working at a bank, hospitality jobs, always had 4 or 5 different jobs going at the same time. I worked for a bank, I worked for several restaurants, I helped open a bar. I found early on I loved getting jobs, but it was hard keeping a job because I would lose interest. I went to school for business, graduated Colorado State University. So I was thinking about, graduating college at that point and saying, what are the pieces that have been consistent in my life this far that I've loved doing? And for me, that was getting people together. That was partying, that was having fun, that was gathering friends together. And I was like, okay, let's go a little deeper. Let's take that. I said, okay, what do I have experience doing? Well, I have experience waiting tables, bartending, the hospitality side of things. And so through a family connection, I learned about an opportunity to come pick up a couple shifts with a catering company. And I started working with that catering company. I brought my wife in, I brought her family in, I brought my family in, and soon we were running all of their events. And doing that was so much fun, really gave us an opportunity to touch the wedding and events industry firsthand here in Southern California. And there was a pivotal moment for me. I actually got fired. I was working at a large chain restaurant and I didn't ID someone correctly. And if you've ever worked for a large chain, they're pretty strict with their standards. And it's funny because I remember then being so worried and so stressed out and so concerned, like, how am I gonna provide? And at that point, I just got married, found out that my new wife was pregnant with our baby, and really didn't have any clue what was going on. I was like, what am I gonna do here? I have got all this responsibility and I have no way to provide. And so this really felt terrible to me, when in fact, that was the pain point that I needed to start something. I remember, sitting on a futon with a college buddy and literally just mapping out. He freehand sketched the original light bulb for Common Sense Events, and we used that picture as the logo. And we went to that original catering company that hired me and said, hey, do you mind just, instead of us bringing people and you paying all of us, do you mind paying me the money and then I'll give it to them? And then it built from there to, hey, I need to charge you a little bit more to cover business expenses. Would you be willing to do that? Insurance and things like that. And they said yes. And we were doing a really good job. They referred us out to some other catering companies. And so from there, it started growing. We built a hiring process. We started hiring managers. We brought on more and more teams. And at that point, I just realized that being an entrepreneur is awesome. Like, there's a real opportunity here to do something I love and to build something awesome and make a lot of money, which I was motivated by, provide for my family, but then also serve people, serve our clients, serve the guests of the wedding. And customer service was always really important to us then. And so we ended up growing because we were focused on customer service. And that ended up leading to incredible reviews about us to the venue or to the catering company. It was interesting, about that time, we built to this place, we were doing not very much money. I mean, it was like $40,000 or $50,000 per year, real low. I thought, oh, this is kind of cool, but it kind of felt a little side hustly. My wife was working as a nanny. We had our first son and we were pregnant with our second son. And someone said, hey, do you want a job coming and managing this fine dining restaurant? It was great. I mean, they were going to pay me a salary and there was going to be a bonus and all these different things. And I thought, hey, you know what? I need to be secure. I need to be safe with my career. And I've got this new baby on the way. Like, I need to be responsible. Like, this is a great opportunity for me and kind of leverages a lot of the skills that I have. And so I took the job. But during that time, it was a complete whirlwind. I onboarded over 200 employees. We did training. We did all of this different stuff. It was a very good experience, something great to add to my resume. But in the process, it was very counter and very much against and anti who I was and who I needed to be and the direction that my life was going. And so turns out I ended up having a couple of drinks at a bar after the event and I got a DUI. I actually had pulled over to the side of the road and I decided to take a nap, and I found a little parking spot, and my BAC was high enough that they actually said, hey, you either need to go to jail for a couple weeks or you need to go on house arrest for 3 months. Those were my options. And I said, gosh, okay, I'm gonna choose house arrest. I had to do the house arrest in San Diego County because that's where the DUI occurred. But my wife and where our family was and where we lived was in Riverside County, which is like 50 minutes away. And so my parents luckily lived in San Diego County and allowed me to sleep in my old room. And this was such a humbling experience for me. I will say I did have the opportunity to go and keep working at that job because things were going fine there. We were building and expanding and things like that. I had an opportunity to go that direction, or I had the opportunity to do house arrest, quit that job, and focus on being an entrepreneur and building my business. And so I made that choice very consciously. It was another example of like really intense pain being applied to my life, and the fines and having to go to all the DUI classes, and just like the shame and embarrassment of going through that process. During that process, I really started to self-educate. I started reading books. I started a little YouTube channel, believe it or not, called Rooftop Rant. Some of the videos are still there. As you grow, you're gonna have pain, and the excuse of avoiding that pain is going to have a direct impact on your effectiveness in getting to your ultimate destination as quick as possible. Long story short, I ended up focusing on the business, committing to the business, and believe it or not, within 3 months, I had tripled the size of our business. We went from making $40,000 or $50,000 to over $150,000. That blew my mind. I mean, we did 6 figures in 3 months, and so I knew at that point, that was for me a big wake-up call. It was like, oh my gosh, like I can do this. I knew it was possible before, but in this moment, I really committed to it. I was doing all sorts of big events. We ended up doubling our revenue and doubling our revenue and doubling our revenue again, pretty much every single year. And it was actually during COVID, we hit 7 figures in revenue. We had done just barely under 7 figures, but I knew at that point, because I had some of those other experiences, I knew that just because there was a lot of pain doesn't mean you can't create a really winning scenario out of it. And so much pressure, so much stress, but it was that stress, it was that pressure that helped us create the venue management side of things and helped us grow and helped us iterate. And it's that very process that we're going through now as we not only continue to create episodes on this show and create this show as a resource, as the best resource for wedding venue owners and operators in the United States, and then continue growing our business and really use the pain, the pressure, all of the challenges that we have experienced, and not be a victim, but be a victor. Make that choice that you are going to, and we are going to rise above whatever our current circumstances are. Get your mind right first, and then start executing. And even though if those actions are little bits every single day, and it doesn't really feel like you're making a lot of progress, that's okay. That's small progress towards a bigger goal, and that stacks up. I'm excited to apply everything I've learned in entrepreneurship, in hospitality over the last 11 years now, and the last 5 years in managing and operating venues, and continue to make incredible products for venue owners, continue to put out educational content for venue owners and operators, and build incredible things that serve our clients and contribute to making our industry better. I'm thankful for your attention and you being part of this journey as well. It makes a really, really big difference. So anyway, if you haven't already, I would be remiss if I didn't say subscribe to the podcast, share it with someone who you think could find value. And I'd love to hear your feedback, your story. If you have a similar story to mine, or maybe if this story was inspiring to you at all, I would absolutely love to hear it. Send us a message on Facebook, on email. It's hello@thevenuerx.com, and I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next video.